Good evening. Today is October the 24th. That means we are only 15 days away from our midterm elections. On tonight's Hamilton Report, we've got a lot of information to share, beginning with our first guest who will be talking to us from the frontier about fact-checking the gubernatorial race last week. We'll learn not only what she found, but also the way she went about this arduous task. We'll also be talking about what's going on the other side of the aisle and why we all need to be paying attention. All that and more coming up on tonight's Hamilton Report. As I tell you each week on the Hamilton Report, I am so grateful for the time that you share with us every single Monday, or if you don't watch it live, that the time that you spend catching up during the week with what we have to say on this broadcast. It is so heartwarming for me to hear from our viewers the things that they like or the things they want to hear more of. And we certainly do take your suggestions very, very seriously because, after all, this show is for you. And we want it to be as valuable a resource as possible. I said it's for you. It's also for me. And it's my happiest half hour of the week to be able to spend some time with folks who really want to know the truth and are concerned about the future of our state. And that future can change dramatically 15 days from now if we all do our part. Before we talk about specifics, I hope that you've had a chance to see the gubernatorial debate from last week. It was held in Oklahoma City, and it's the only one that the current governor has agreed to. I should also say that it was very interesting that he would not agree to a statewide televised debate. And so if you haven't seen it, it is available on YouTube. News 9 has it, as well as non-doc. So I hope that you will take the opportunity and watch it. But for those of you who already did see it, I know that you were as gobsmacked as I was with some of the things that I heard. Now, I'll tell you something. The best part is I was able to just sit there and watch it like the rest of you. I was in the room, but it doesn't matter where you see it. You still got an opportunity to see and hear from both candidates, the current governor as well as Joy Hoffmeister, our Democratic candidate for governor. But as I said, you heard lots of things exchanged that evening. And thankfully to Oklahoma's independent journalists, we have some facts on our side. And to help us with that, it's my privilege to welcome to the Hamilton Report managing editor of the Frontier, Brianna Bailey. Brianna, thank you and welcome to the Hamilton Report.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Now, let's start with some of the things that you were initially, I guess your initial reaction to some of the things that you heard even before you began the fact checking. What were your immediate takeaways after the debate?
Well, I knew we would have a hard job on our hands. I'll say that. We've been partnering for the past year with another local independent news outlet, Non-Doc, to do these fact checks on debates that they've been having in collaboration with News 9. And there were several surprising moments. You know, the big one that everyone talked about that kind of went viral online was this moment with the crime statistics, and then which, you know, I think when we were even in the room, you could tell immediately that was going to be like a big moment of the debate.
Absolutely was. I mean,
yeah,
you could hear the gasp, and it was, for those of you who haven't yet seen it, Superintendent Hoffmeister said that the major crime in Oklahoma is twice what it is compared to New York and California. And I have always told people that my chances of being murdered in New York are twice as high as they were when I lived in Brooklyn. And that's a fact that you were able to bear out. What did your findings
Mhm.
show us?
Well, so it takes us a few days to do these things. And what we found is so we fact checked both Stitt on his uh, denial that what Joy Hoffmeister, she said that's not true about what she said about the crime statistics, and we found that false. Oklahoma does have a higher violent crime rate than both New York and California, and this is according to FBI data that is collected annually from local law enforcement agencies. We use 2020's numbers because that's the last full year that we have complete data for. And yeah, we found that Oklahoma has the 14th highest violent crime rate in the nation, compared to California at 17th and New York at 27th.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And those numbers are easy to obtain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very interesting. Then in his rebuttal, he said, "Come on, Oklahoma, do you really believe crime is higher here than it is in New York and California?" And kind of scoffed at that.
Yeah.
But you have determined that, in fact, those numbers are true.
Yes, but I'll also note that we also did a fact check on Hoffmeister's claim that under Stitt's administration, violent crime rates have increased higher than New York. What she said was, her exact words were, the rates of violent crime are higher in Oklahoma under your watch than New York and California. That's a fact. So she kind of insinuated that this increase was happening while Kevin Stitt was governor. But what we found, we looked through 20 years worth of FBI data, and Oklahoma has consistently had a higher violent crime rate than either of those states for most of the past 20 years. There was a slight uptick between 2019 and 2020. That's part of an overall increase in violent crimes rates for the entire nation during the pandemic.
What else surprised you in your work fact checking the debate?
Well, let me hear. I was really surprised at how heated the debate got. There were several moments where, I mean, they really got into it. I mean, they were, Hoffmeister really came at Stitt with several attacks on issues with criminal justice reform, and that got a big reaction from Stitt. I think at one point he said that's disgusting, or he called her disgusting because she was calling him to task over some criminal justice reform measures and his use of commutations. And I thought that was a very interesting exchange. I thought, I mean, overall, I mean, it was an entertaining night. I mean, wow.
That it was. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because throughout his term as governor, he has claimed Oklahoma is a top 10 state. And at every turn, he has said that over and over and over. Were you surprised that he admitted that was only aspirational, and then in fact said we'll never achieve that?
I was, and I think a lot of people were surprised by that. I was not expecting him to say that. I mean, I guess as a leader of a corporation, like he's coming from the business world, and he's saying that's what leaders do. They set like goals, and I could see like why he was saying that, but it didn't. I don't think I would imagine his campaign probably wasn't too happy that he said that. I'll say.
I can imagine that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think the issue of tribal sovereignty was handled that night?
How do I think it was handled? You know, I'm really surprised. Well, I'm not surprised it's a big issue. I don't like I was just reading today that Stitt is renewing his legal fight over the gaming compacts with tribes, which this comes like a week or two after, Oklahoma's 5 largest tribes have endorsed Hoffmeister. And yeah, they're powerful foes. The tribes are powerful foes to have in Oklahoma. And I'm not surprised, but also I'm kind of surprised by some of the things that have become campaign issues about the tribes. I thought it was interesting that Stitt said, "Well, yes, they are sovereign, but sovereign over what?" And I mean, you got some heat from that comment. But yeah, that is the crux of the issue of what do they have sovereignty over: prosecuting crimes and gaming, and what are they sovereign over? I mean, that's it. I think he was right. Honestly,
I understand. I understand
yeah.
your point there.
Mm-hmm.
I need to interject something. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that he has reignited his fight over gaming,
Mm-hmm.
and I should point out to our viewers that was done by hiring a Washington D.C. White shoe law firm that bills in excess of $1,000 an hour. That is state money that's going for that, and so I just wanted to clarify that. It's not Governor Stitt who's paying for that. It is the people of Oklahoma, and we'll see where that goes. What else stands out to you as memorable moments for either candidate?
Oh, I mean, there was definitely. I thought Joy was really well prepared. I'll say that she did. But one thing that struck me was a lot of her talking points were the same ones that came from some of the dark money ads. The claims about violent crime, of course, Swadley's. She's gonna, I think the kind of the good sound bite for her, which I'm sure was, I can't even trust you with barbecue.
Yes.
I'm sure she practiced that in front of the mirror. But it was, I thought it was effective. I thought she was, I thought she was a good debater. I mean, she stayed on message. She really had, some good talking points. We did kind of nail her in our fact check about, she didn't quite get some numbers and stats right. Some of the information that she said on stage was a little bit off the mark. I think she talked about the tribes being the largest employer in the state. They're actually the second largest. Yeah. But I thought she did a good job overall.
I would certainly agree with
Mm-hmm.
your assessment there. Let me ask you, because it took a few days for the Frontier to release your findings, and I know what goes into that, but I think a lot of people are thinking to themselves, well, you could have just Google searched all these things, but it's not that easy for a journalist, is it?
Oh, no, it's not. Like, I wish we could, fact check those things in real time. And if you look at Twitter, people were, but I mean, that thing, I was not expecting, like, I knew that was a big moment in the debate, about the crime stats.
Uh-huh.
But you could see, I mean, yeah, people were taking out their phones and Googling it. Okay, let's see if she's right. But it isn't that simple, because you could see like the debate on social media lasted for days after this.
Yes, it did. It's still going on.
Yeah. I mean, you think a fact is a fact and a statistic is a statistic, but it's not, because there's issues with the FBI crime data being incomplete, and Stitt's campaign was pushing back on that and saying, well, the FBI doesn't have complete numbers for 2021. And, we went back and forth with their campaign on this because we were trying to prepare for pushback, because we knew there was going to be pushback on anything that we said from either side.
Sure.
So when we take a few days to do it, it's just that we're, you don't want to fact check somebody to be wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only is that dangerous to you professionally, and to the frontier, but it's also a disservice to voters. When they hear a fact and then it's fact checked, and I mean, how often have we seen that with Fox News, for example? They fact check something, and I don't even want to know what methodology they think they're using. But it turns out then to be that their facts were factually wrong. I'm going to shift just a little bit. Why do you think there is such hesitancy among news organizations? And I'm not talking really about independent news organizations, because I think you all do a really good job of this, but major news outlets. Why is there such a reticence to say when someone is lying? I mean, we hear about misstatements or half truths, or all these nice euphemisms that could just be handled by saying he lied, she lied, they're lying about this.
Yeah.
What is the reticence, do you think?
Because lying assumes intent, and the motivations of the person, and that they have some that they're intentionally lying, or they know something to be untrue when they're saying that it is true. So like, as an editor, I'm always looking for, when I'm editing stories, I'm looking at, are we assuming other people's motivations? And it's just about being like a fairness thing. And you can't, when we're talking about when you get into the motivations of other people and you're reporting on the motivations of other people, that can get you in trouble, with accuracy. And also, one of the things I do when I'm editing is, I have to make sure we don't get sued, like for libel. And so it's hard to prove that someone is knowingly lying. Yeah.
Okay. And I appreciate that, because that's a question that I hear often. Why not just call a liar a liar? And I think that there are some exceptions to that rule where we know that someone has lied repeatedly for the last 6 years. And but I appreciate your position on that. Brianna, is there anything else that you would like our viewers to know about the debate or the process that you went through?
Yeah, what we do is we're doing this. We've done this with a number of debates that NonDoc has hosted this year. What we do is we pick a select. We don't do the whole debate, because that would just take forever. We have a very small staff. We have a staff of like 5 or 6 people doing this. So we pick a selection of points that were made in debate from each candidate. We try to fact check each candidate. We try to keep it pretty equal on the number of claims that we're fact checking from each candidate. And we use public records. I mean, we do interviews. We try to get the most official sources of information that we can. And then if we find a claim to be false, this is a really important part of it, is we reach out to the person that we're calling false or had a falsehood, and we give them a chance to provide supporting information that would say, no, I'm actually right. And we did that with both the Stitt and Hoffmeister campaigns on this fact check. And that's another reason why it takes a few days. And
Absolutely.
on the claims that we rated as false, they definitely responded. They had quotes that they provided to us, but I mean, there was no factual information that would make us change our rating from false to true, so.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because again, this is why fact checking in real time, there's only so much that you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to reach out to a candidate while they're still on stage? Well, this has been so informative, and I want to thank you and the good folks at Frontier, also NonDoc, because without independent journalism, we would all be much worse off. And I'm going to use this opportunity where I normally ask people to support candidates. I'm going to ask them to seriously give thought to supporting our independent journalists in Oklahoma, because you do us a great service. And I'm so appreciative of your time tonight. And I hope that you'll consider this an open invitation, Brianna, that anytime that you'd like to come back and visit with us, you are more than welcome, because we appreciate your voice. We appreciate your experience. I should mention that Brianna has been with the Frontier for 5 years, and before that spent many years with the Daily Oklahoman. So you're not a newcomer to the journalism game, and your experience is certainly something that we count on for accuracy and truth. And so thank you so much for being with us tonight, Brianna.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Have a good evening.
Thanks. You too.
Well, I want to take us back a moment to what Brianna was talking about, because I meant what I said. The governor unilaterally made a decision. He had not informed the legislature that he was going to do this to get back into another fight, a bigger fight with the tribes over gaming. Now, Oklahoma has its share of attorneys. Anyone who watches 5 minutes of daytime TV knows the number of attorneys that you see advertised. And every billboard, you can't go anywhere without seeing an attorney. So why is it that he is taking Oklahoma tax dollars and spending over $1,000 an hour to a Washington, D.C. firm? That's a big question that I think that he needs to answer. And of course, I'm sure he won't. But speaking of Republicans, this is almost unbelievable. And except for the person who has made this promise, it would be unbelievable. Ryan Walters, the current Secretary of Education, an appointment that he got because he's Stitt's friend, is running for Superintendent of Public Instruction. That would be a disaster for our schools. His campaign has been funded largely by private entities who are supporting school vouchers or privatizing public education. Now, what's the reason for someone to do that? It's got to be money. That's all there is, because it would kill our rural schools. But he made this promise recently that if he's elected, he will require every public school teacher to go through patriotic training from Hillsdale College. Now, if you know Hillsdale College, they are as extreme right as you can possibly imagine. And I mean extreme right. Pro-Trumpers all the way. They're a recognized hate group. And here is this man saying that he will require public school teachers to go through this patriotic training. It's nonsense. It's pandering. It's useless. And for someone who is so concerned about indoctrination and grooming, it's clear here that he is indoctrinating, or wants to, our teachers, so that then they can indoctrinate our students to his way of thinking. You can't have it both ways, Mr. Walters. You can't have it both ways. Now let's look at what else is happening in the Republican Party. I'm going to first show you a clip from our friends at the Lincoln Project. I don't know anyone that works there. I've never met anyone that works there, but I value their contributions in terms of raising issues and raising concern that we all need to be aware of. Let's take a look at this latest of their videos.
When Vladimir Putin invaded a peaceful Ukraine, his brutal shock troops committed hideous war crimes against women, children, and the elderly. He bombed cities, towns, and villages. America and the world gave Ukraine weapons, supplies, and intelligence. The Ukrainians put their courageous soldiers in the line of fire. With great sacrifice, this alliance broke the invasion, pushed it back, liberated millions. Victory for Ukraine is in sight, but the war isn't over. And the new front is in Washington, where MAGA Republicans want a Putin victory. They'll cut off aid to Ukraine if they take power. You heard that right. They want America to switch sides, help Putin win, threatening us with nuclear annihilation. It's sick. It's wrong. It's MAGA. If they win in November, Putin wins, and the blood will be on our hands.
The Lincoln Project paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That's a pretty powerful piece, and I think you'll agree with that. Now, here's the shocking news. The Tulsa Republican Party, Tulsa County, put out a statement that said, growing up, we were always told that Russia was bad. Russia's not bad. They don't start wars. Vote red. Are you kidding me? The worst part is not that they posted that on social media, but that Stitt has not had the backbone to decry this insanity within his own party. If they believe that supporting Putin, a totalitarian leader, someone who is the ultimate power in his country and wants to be that power in the world, how can the governor of this state not demand that they retract it? And how can he not apologize for his own party? He won't do it. He works overtime trying to tie Joy Hoffmeister to President Biden. And that's illogical. It's nonsensical. He blames Joy for raising gas prices. That's not in her purview as superintendent of public education. She's not running. Biden is not running for governor in Oklahoma. I'm sorry that our current governor doesn't even understand that little fact. Friends, this is what we have. This is what we have to look forward to if we don't turn out to vote. Polls are looking great for our candidates. But that doesn't mean a thing if we don't go to the polls and make our voices heard. Friends, we can change the trajectory of Oklahoma. We can change the future landscape of our state and ultimately our country. We have 5 Democrats running for Congress. We have 2 Democrats running for the U.S. Senate. If we can get those folks elected, even some of them elected, that will help maintain the good work that's being done in Washington on behalf of all of us. So I urge you, I beg you to reach out to everyone you know. Make sure that they are equipped to vote. And it's a big ballot this time. Some pages, some people are getting 2, 3, or more pages because of local questions. And I ask that you vote your entire ballot. It's not enough to vote for senator or governor. We have to vote for every single person on our ballot. And I hope that you will do that. I'm going to lighten things just a little bit by giving you a preview of something that you will be seeing rolling out later in the week. This is still at its draft stage, but I'm so excited about the work that our staff here at the Oklahoma Democratic Party has done putting this together, that I wanted to give you a sneak peek. As I said, it's still in draft form. We've got some work yet to do, but we're finishing it up this week, and you will be seeing it everywhere. Let's take a look now. Oklahoma's congressional delegation does not support Oklahoma. Support for capping insulin prices. Support for rural broadband access. Support for women's right to choose. Support for student loan forgiveness. Support for better roads and bridges. Support for our military veterans. Support for lowering gas prices. Support for our children. Oklahoma, we have choices this November, but use them wisely before they take away all of our choices for good. Just want to echo that last line one time. We have choices this November, but we have to use them wisely. Because if we don't, they will take away our choices for good. That's it for tonight's episode of the Hamilton Report. I'm so grateful that you spent some time with us this evening. I hope that you will share this broadcast in your social media with others who need to know what's being done on their behalf, and if we're not careful, what's going to be done to them by the other side. I look forward to seeing you again next Monday evening at 6:30. Until then, please take good care of yourself. On behalf of all of us here at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton saying thank you for watching and good night.